What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Offer on the Table. I'm Jon, and I'm here with Adam on the phone. What's up?
What's good?
Anyway, for those of you who are new, here's the run of how the show is going to work. Every episode, we take a few current events in the NBA, and we put them in a podcast, and that's what we talk about. So this isn't, it's kind of newsworthy. This was in the news a couple days ago. Carmelo Anthony has been traded to the Atlanta Hawks. This is all in a 3-team trade with the Atlanta Hawks, Oklahoma City, and the Philadelphia 76ers. And Melo is going to Atlanta along with his $28 million contract, so Oklahoma doesn't have to pay for that. And so is Justin Anderson from Philadelphia. And the Thunder are even throwing in a 2022 first-round protected pick, first lottery protected pick to Atlanta. But going back to the Thunder, they're going to get Dennis Schroeder and Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot from Philly. And Mike Muscala is going to Philadelphia. So, the question stands. The question has to be asked here. What is Carmelo's career looking like right now? Because he was just traded to. First of all, he signed with the Oklahoma City Thunder last summer, and his stats dropped dramatically. He averages 16 points now, and the rest of his stats have decreased. So, what do you think his career is looking at right now, especially since there are reports Atlanta wants to waive Melo?
Well, I honestly, you either got to look at it from two perspectives. One, you're the Hawks. What are you going to get from having Melo on your team, and what are you going to get from not having Melo on your team?
I'm sorry. I would like to rephrase what I just said. The Hawks have bought out Carmelo Anthony, so they have paid his contract off, and Melo is reportedly going to sign a minimum contract with the Houston Rockets. That was newsflash.
Yeah.
So what is again, back to the question, what is Melo's career looking at right now?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. If you're Carmelo Anthony, you've had a lot of success. You had a lot of success in Denver. You had a lot of success in New York, and now you're getting toward the tail end of your career. And I think he was a player he was the focal point of the team, right? He was the star in Denver. It was him and Iverson, but it really was Melo's team. Iverson was at the tail end of his career, and then in New York, it was just Melo.
Right.
He had Iverson, he had Layton, he had a couple of other guys, or not Iverson, he had Stoudemire, he had Layton, but the focus was on Carmelo Anthony. And you go to Oklahoma City, you've got Westbrook, you've got Paul George, so the focus taken off of him, and I think that's reflected a little bit in his stats. Obviously, we expect a decrease. He went from the star player, the focal point, to the third string, essentially. So we knew his stats would decline. I think it just took everyone by surprise how drastic of a drop it was. So, in my perspective, I think Atlanta's stupid, but that's just me. I think Schroeder was a big talent. I don't know what they were thinking here. You draft Trae Young. I guess that's kind of along the lines of where they're going. They'd rather have Trae Young be the point guard of the future, but it's Trae Young. Everyone knows my opinion on Trae Young.
And if you don't, you can go to our draft episode where we talk about who we think are going to be busts and who we think are going to develop into big stars. But back to you, Adam.
Spoiler alert, I don't like Trae Young. So I don't think that the Hawks can build a franchise around Trae Young, but I think that's what they're trying to do. Obviously, Schroeder's going to want a pay increase that they're not willing to give to him. So you trade him away. But Schroeder was a superstar compared to what the talent they have there now. And if they're just going to buy Melo, why waste $28 million on Carmelo Anthony?
That you're not going to
He's
get.
not going to play for you. All you're getting essentially is Justin Anderson and a 2022 first-round pick for Schroeder.
That's lottery protected. Which means that if the Thunder in 2022 get a pick between 1 and 14, the Hawks don't even get it.
Yeah, so it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why on earth they would agree to it, but it's just beyond me. I don't get it.
I mean, what I feel is really, I think this is kind of sad that Dennis Schroeder was traded because he was really developing and he was getting near, I think, like in a couple of years if he keeps it up, like he could have been an all-star. I think that, right?
Yes, definitely.
And now that he's going to be a backup point guard, I mean, I don't think it's compatible having both Dennis Schroeder and Russell Westbrook on the floor at the same time. I don't know. I wouldn't want to put Russell Westbrook at the 2. I think he's good at the 1, but Dennis Schroeder is too short to be at the 2. So I just don't like him going from starter to backup, and I'm sure he's also not happy with it. I think as a player, like, sure, your goal is to want to win rings, but at the end of the day, you also want to be, like, the star player also. So a lot of times, you're like, in rare cases, you get both. I mean, you look at Kevin Durant, you look at LeBron and Curry before Kevin Durant. Like, they were stars. They were starters on a team that was contending for a championship, right? So they had the best of both worlds. But Dennis Schroeder was on the Hawks, so he didn't really have the decision to make. But Atlanta kind of made the decision for him. But I'm thinking, like, I'm sure he would rather be a starter than go backwards, right? Like, usually the progression goes from bench to starter, and I think Dennis Schroeder was on the bench for a bit, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like, this is kind of a step backwards for him, even though he's on a team that's supposed to be projected to be good.
Yeah.
So I just feel real bad for Dennis Schroeder because this is obviously not. Well, I wouldn't know. I don't talk to him, but I think that he also feels like this is going to be a step backwards. I don't know how he's going to be able to. He was on his way to, like, prove himself, and I don't know how he's really going to be doing that now that, especially that he's going to be overshadowed by Russell Westbrook. I don't think any other point guard other than any other point guard that you can put on a team with Russell Westbrook would be able to be recognized as much.
Yeah, you look at Schroeder's stats too. It's been a steady increase in production from Schroeder, jumping up to 19 points a game this year, averaged 6 assists. I mean, this is a solid point guard on a not so solid team, and you're throwing it away to basically throw $28 million down the drain. So, from my perspective, the Hawks are really stupid, and I really don't care what other people think about that, because that's really what my point of view is. So unless, like, you have something mind-blowing that I'm not comprehending, I really don't understand what the hell is going on in Atlanta right now.
And, like, Atlanta is really in that awkward phase. Like, they're not rebuilding, and they're not winning. So they're they're just bad, and they have no, especially now that they threw away $28 million down the drain, like you said, and getting Justin Anderson for it, along with a pick that it's going to be a late first rounder at best. And so what are their intentions? I know this obviously means that they have a lot of faith in Trae Young, but to be honest,
that or this is them pushing for a rebuild. But even then, you need a player
you don't start
a basis to rebuild around.
When you rebuild, you trade away a star. You don't give him money and let him leave.
Yeah.
You don't let him walk the. You don't let him walk the
should get
plank.
something in return, and they really did not.
They did the exact opposite. Anyway, Mike Muscala to the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, Mike Muscala, he was a good player for the Hawks. Good in the Hawks standards. So he's been traded away now to Philly, and I'm sure that he'll be great in the post and also be able to stretch out. That's kind of Philly's game. But yeah, I mean that's the trade. But now let's talk about Melo and his future with the Rockets. We know that he has a good relationship with Chris Paul, and I again still don't see how a big three is going to work there. People were thinking about Carmelo and LeBron, Carmelo going to the Rockets with James Harden, Chris Paul, and they were thinking the same thing about LeBron in separate occasions. How do you think this is going to work out? Like, and if we look at in their next season, how much farther are they going to get as a team? How much closer can they get to a ring? Because I read somewhere online that considering that Carmelo Anthony does sign with the Houston Rockets, their championship projection is going from 4.8% to like 3.9%, which is essentially saying that you're making your team worse by signing Carmelo Anthony. So, first of all, do you think it's in the Rockets' best interest to sign Carmelo Anthony, or is it like what is should the Rockets agree to sign? Like Carmelo Anthony has verbally stated that he's going to, or he has intentions to sign a minimum contract with the Rockets, but should the Rockets agree to do that?
Should the Rockets agree to a deal with Carmelo?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how much of a choice you have at this point, honestly. Like,
he's already said it, but they can obviously back out. But do you want Carmelo? If you're the GM of the Rockets, do you want Carmelo Anthony with Chris Paul and with James Harden? I mean, you did just lose Trevor Ariza, but I don't know. I think Trevor Ariza was 3-and-D. He shot the 3-ball, which is exactly what they needed, and he can get back on defense, which is something Carmelo Anthony can struggle with defensively. And Carmelo Anthony, I don't think is not anymore at least. I don't think he's as valuable from the 3-point line than Trevor Ariza. So, you said that they don't really have much of a choice. Do you think that it would be a good idea for them to do this?
Yes, because I think that obviously the Rockets, you can't get much closer to a finals than you did this year.
They were
obviously you compete a little bit better in Game 7, but they really you made it to the Western Conference Finals. You take it to Game 7,
right?
That's actually you probably could have won it earlier, but they ended up taking it to 7. That's still they got to be a game away from the finals, right? So it's not for their lack of skill. And I think that they did that with their bench depth. You saw Eric Gordon, you saw Trevor Ariza really step up. Mm-hmm. So bench depth clearly is important for them. But, and I think that's really what Carmelo is there for. I don't think he's going to be there to start or...
Really? You don't think he's going to be starting?
Well, I think he might start, but I don't think he deserves to.
Now, I was watching something on, I think it was ESPN, of them talking about Carmelo Anthony, and, when he signed with Oklahoma City, at the press conference, Hoodie Melo, as hoodie as he was, said, off the bench, I ain't coming off the bench. Should he change his mentality, looking at his stats, looking at what he's looking to sign for, the minimum contract, should he consider coming off the bench as a viable option? Because I think he should be open to the idea that he's not what he used to be. And I mean, it's not... He is not what he used to be. I don't think... And it's not that he should, take it to heart. Players, go back. Like the... Allen Iverson was super good on the Sixers, kind of took a step back, ended up playing in China. And you can see this with other superstars ever. In basketball, and I'm pretty sure like other sports too, you can be a superstar and you can like go down in talent. Dirk Nowitzki, our next topic, he's also he's not what he used to be. So I don't think that it's that absurd for Carmelo Anthony to come off the bench. In fact, I think it would be a plus. Imagine a couple years ago saying,
I think the Rockets are better with Melo off the bench.
I think
than
so
they
too.
Are with them starting.
It sounds...
But I don't think he's willing to.
So, do you think that Carmelo Anthony would back out if he can't get the starting position?
I don't think he'll back out, but I think that he'll definitely be unhappy. And I think he'll complain until they actually do start him.
Why wouldn't you just trade him? Would you just give him what he wants, or would you just trade him?
I would give him what he wants, because who wants him?
That's true. You can't get anything for him.
Mm-mm.
All right, well, speaking of Dirk, Dirk did just sign a new deal, 1 year, $5 million. Not too big of news. Obviously, he was going to re-sign with the Dallas Mavericks. What is interesting, though, Adrian Wojnarowski just tweeted a couple minutes ago that he does not have a no-trade clause on his contract, which basically means that any proposed trade for that player with a no-trade clause has to go by him, which presumably means that he can't be traded unless he gives the okay. And this was a